Okay, so this is going to be kind of like a story time slash conversation video on why I moved to France when I was 17, ever since I made my TikTok about how I moved to France when I was 17, and then I did my story time on YouTube, which if you haven't watched it, here it is. I get a lot of DMs and questions from a lot of you guys that are very young, you know, around the same age and being younger, you know, in high school and in university, that you guys want to do the same thing that I did. You ask me a lot of questions, which honestly I love that my experience is able to help not only me and the people who know me, but so many of you guys. But I thought that I would elaborate more on the why of things, because in my past story time I just kind of like went over the whole thing very generally. So I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the why, so that if some of you guys are thinking of doing the same thing, which I know a lot of you guys are, you can have the perspective of someone that already did it. And if you're just here for the story, then thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you, and let's get into it. If you enjoy fashion, life in Paris, productivity videos, a little bit of everything, definitely subscribe to this channel because there's a lot more coming. If you want to follow me on social media, I am Fancyandparis on both Instagram and TikTok. Okay, so what drives a 17-year-old girl to move to a whole other continent by herself in good old 2011, when the world was just a completely different place? Good question. I don't know exactly when it started, but I've always known since I was younger that I wanted to do something different. And today, moving abroad seems like nothing, you know, extraordinary. But at the time, it was a pretty big deal to move away and to, you know, go study abroad, especially because I was 17. But I guess it all started because I was very good at English, and when I was in high school, I got a scholarship to go to the US. And I was 14 at the time, so my dad obviously didn't let me go, rightfully so. I was 14, and I don't really remember what that scholarship entailed. I think from there on, I just kind of was left with the idea of going to the US and study. Since I was so young, obviously I couldn't do anything about it, so I would just watch Hollywood movies and dream about, you know, going to the US and living there and having a family there and studying and, you know, just living my life there. And I kind of just, you know, thought that that was what I was going to do, and that is what I wanted to do up until the point that everything completely changed and I decided to come to France instead. But anyways, the dream was to go to the US as soon as I turned 18, and I just had to patiently wait for that time to come. However, everything changed when my father passed away when I was 15. Obviously, you know, our world completely was turned upside down, and I don't think I thought about my future for, you know, a long time. That was also the year that I finished high school, when I was 15. So, you know, my mom decided to give priority, obviously, to my two older sisters that were already in university, and she was not going to be able to pay university for everyone at the same time. So I was very young and I didn't want to go to university yet, because, you know, university was also a lot about partying and stuff like that. So I didn't want to go, you know, being too young. So I kind of took a couple of months off after I got out of high school, and since I liked speaking English so much, I just, you know, pitched to my mom that I would just study English and then I would become bilingual, so that by the time that I go to university I was bilingual and maybe I would be able to find a better job. And my mom agreed. It was this 2-year program to become bilingual. You know, it was great, but it was a little bit pricey, so I was determined to get working and to get it done faster, and I actually ended up doing it in just 1 year. But I was very happy because, you know, I was able to save my mom that year of, you know, English lessons that were a little bit pricey. But because I went to that school, there were actually a lot of universities from the US that would come to the school and, like, you know, have like school fairs, and you would go and they would give you like pamphlets and information about the universities just in case you wanted to go in college and stuff like that. But it was obviously super expensive. There was no way that my mom was going to be able to afford it. So anyways, I was just very happy to, you know, finish my little English school in 1 year. And it just so happens that right in front of the English school, there was this French school building called the Alliance Française, which is where I went to study French. And I don't know, I just walked in one time. I just pitched to my mom the idea, you know, why not speak French? Or I don't remember if it was her that told me, you know, because you saved me a year worth money. I don't know. The thing is, I ended up studying French. My very first day, I met this boy that we became friends very quickly, and he was absolutely obsessed with Paris. He had just came back from a summer program, and he would just talk about it all the time, and how, you know, how fun it was and how beautiful it was. And so I slowly started gaining, you know, some interest for France. I had literally never even consider anything other than the US, but he kind of like talked about it so much. I was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. And I started taking some interest into, you know, France. And as we got to talking, I was like, but isn't going to study there super expensive? And he was like, it's free. And I was like, what? It's free? Like, not even in Colombia it's free. Like, yeah, there are a couple of good universities, but you have to be like a genius to get there. Like, university is super expensive everywhere. So he's like, it's free. I'm going there. So I changed my mind, and I began to, you know, follow on his French passion, and I just decided that I wanted to study in France. And I also just, you know, accepted the fact that it was going to be very, very difficult to afford a university in the US. And, you know, it seemed like the doors to going to the US kind of like closed. And I don't know, everything seemed pretty clear to me at that point, and I decided to come to France. But going to the reasons why, as I mentioned before, I have older sisters, and they were already, you know, at that point entering the job market, and I did not like what I see. And this is not to talk badly about my country or anything. Colombia is a beautiful country with, you know, a lot of possibilities for everybody, but I just wanted more. I saw myself basically going to school for 5 years to an overpriced university, and then getting a credit to get a car, and then getting a credit to get an apartment, and then just spend the rest of my life trying to get by. And I didn't want that. And I was very clear in my mind that I had bigger dreams. And it is so dumb, but things that would come to my mind, it was like when I was younger, Desperate Housewives was the whole thing, and they would have it on TV, and I would just dream about having one of those houses. And I was like that's not going to get me my Desperate Housewife house, which now I see and I'm like, how was that my dream? Those houses are not that great. And now my dream is obviously like absolutely a mansion. Anyways, yeah, I wanted more. I also think after my father was no longer there, you know, my family was in very bad shape. It really broke us. So I think subconsciously I was just looking for a new beginning, and I just wanted to go to a land far away and start writing my own history, if you will. And I think I romanticized that idea a lot, which obviously in retrospective is not great. It's never great to romanticize ideas, but I was 17 and I was going obviously through this very hard time, so I definitely romanticized that idea, and that is a big part why I decided to leave, you know, my country and come here. And I also remember telling this one, he was not a friend, I mean, I guess I could say like a friend. I just told him, you know, I'm so excited, I'm gonna go study in France, and then my goal is to go to Paris and work in fashion. And he literally just laughed at my face, and I was like, why are you laughing? And he was like, because that's just too cliche, like that only happens in movies. And I'll never forget this moment because I just told him, you know, watch me. And I don't think we ever spoke again. But that was the moment that I knew that I was just gonna do it, because I just knew it was my destiny. So a mix of all of that and 100 other things that, you know, lie beneath the surface. I just decided to leave my country and everything that I ever knew and everyone that I ever knew and come to this whole new country alone at 17. Now that I'm 27, I definitely have a different perspective, obviously. But when I was 17, I obviously didn't believe that I was a young girl. I thought that I was like the most mature girl in the world and that I knew everything, and that, you know, I was used to being alone because I didn't have much friends back in Colombia. I was just very oblivious to the fact that being alone in a room of your house when your mom or your sisters or, you know, your whole family is downstairs is very, very, very different than coming to a different country by yourself. It's a whole different thing, and I did not compute that. I was just like, I'm in my room all day, I see no one, it's going to change nothing, it's just going to be the same. It was not. But anyways, I'm going to mention what I was looking for and what I thought was going to happen, just so you can have some perspective on what I actually received from the world. I really thought that I was going to have the perfect college experience, and I really thought that it was going to be great and that I was going to make so many friends and that it was going to be super interesting and fun, and like the American movies where, you know, there's sororities and parties and, you know, like beautiful girls and boys, and that was the dream. And I would also have like 5 jobs that allowed me to have so much money and send money back to my family and to my mom. Not that, you know, they were in need or anything, but just because I could, you know, and send them maybe some gifts. And just that was my expectation because it was Europe, and that's what happens when you go to Europe. You just make a lot of money. That's what I thought at the time. And, you know, I thought that, you know, European girls and boys are super, you know, fun to party with, and we're going to party so much, and like that was my idea. And, you know, with time I'm going to just find a job and, you know, get more stable, but it's just going to be perfect. And getting back to reality, I just started, you know, looking for universities and contacting schools and all of that. If you want a video about that, I already did one on how to come to France as a student. I really went into detail on how I proceeded, you know, like more technically to come here. But finally, I chose to go to Perpignan, and I can 100% say that the reason why I didn't come to Paris first was because I was just too scared. But anyways, I got my visa 2 days before I had my flight, and, you know, the day that I said goodbye to my family at the airport, I don't mean to be dramatic, but the very first second that I was alone, I knew that I was gone for a long time. Like, I just felt it. And I don't know why, I don't know why, but I just knew that, and obviously that's what ended up happening. And I don't think I came back to Colombia for 3 years, I believe. So I hopped on the plane, and I actually had one day in Paris with my friend that I told you guys about at the Alliance Française, and he was already living here. So, you know, we had one day to explore the city, and he was the greatest host. He took me to do every possible thing that a tourist needs to do in Paris, and I had this epic photo right here, which is me with my little teddy bear that my mom gave me, you know, to remind me of home. And as you can see, I was very tired, I was very jet lagged, and I remember it kind of like a dream because of how jet lagged I was and how unreal everything seemed. It was such a surreal experience. And we were so pressed to do everything in one day. We did the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, everything. He just crammed it all in so that I could get to see everything. And then he took me to the train station because I had the train going to Perpignan. And that is probably the day or the night that I was the most scared in my life, just because I had never been on a train before. And this train that I was in didn't have any screens. So I was very afraid that I did not get the right train and I didn't know where I was going. And it was nighttime. And obviously I didn't speak enough French to be confident enough to ask somebody, where are we going? So I just spent the whole night panicking and being like, oh my God, where am I going? Where am I going? And also I was just checking to see that every person that got out of the train didn't steal my luggage, because I was just so paranoid and alone and 17, and the train had no lights because obviously everyone was sleeping, so it was just pitch black everywhere. I did not see anything obviously through the windows because it travels, I don't know, through the mountains or stuff, not the cities. So it was terrifying and I was very scared. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this story is not helping my case about how old I feel, but I had this map that I was looking at and I was trying to find the names of the stops that we did. And I didn't find any, and I was like, where are we? Anyways, at 6 in the morning we got to Perpignan, and I was very happy to be in Perpignan because I was, oh my God, yes, we're here, you know, this is it. And I took a taxi and he took me to the student rooms right next to university. And that was the first awful thing that happened, and it was that I apparently didn't pay this thing that's called caution, which is the deposit, but I didn't know that I needed to do a deposit. They didn't mention that. So when I got there, they were like, okay, you have to pay your deposit before we give you the keys. And the deposit was half of the money that my mom had given me for me to feed myself for the next couple of months. So, you know, obviously I paid because I was not going to stay in the streets. And then I just, you know, went to the, I believe it was the 4th floor, and I got to my little room. I'm going to put a photo right here. I think I put this photo as well in the last story time, and I was so happy. It was like being in another world, but I was very scared. Like, I was so proud and so fearless back in Colombia, because it's easy to be fearless when you're a kid living under your parents' roof, but you know, once you're alone in another country where you don't speak the language, it's a lot harder to be fearless. So I just, you know, left everything. I don't even think I tried to sleep. I went to the reception and I asked them to point me in the direction of the centre-ville, which is the downtown. And, you know, they pointed me there, and I was just looking for a cafe to call my mom or to, you know, Skype or whatever. I didn't have a phone at the time because, you know, phones were not international. I was supposed to get to France and buy a phone and buy a SIM card and then be able to call my mom via Viber, because WhatsApp did not exist yet, which honestly, you guys don't realize how easy it is right now to be like in other parts of the world. It was not that easy 10 years ago. But anyways, I went and I called her and I told her that I had arrived okay and that everything was okay. And then I just got out and I wanted to explore the city, so I just started walking and, you know, just walking around, and I was a little bit tired, so I was like, okay, this little chunk is super fun, like it's cute. I can't wait to, you know, see the rest. But with time, I would discover that that was actually the whole city. Yeah, it was a very, very small city. Actually, how it works is like there's multiple little small cities, you know, around each other, and you have to have like a car to get to it. And I also remembered that when I checked on Google Maps before coming, the beach seemed to be very close to the student apartments. But obviously, you know, I just eyeballed it. But in real life, to go to the beach, it was like a 40-minute ride in a bus. And so there was pretty much nothing to do in this city. And I was in the student room, and all I had was just my knockoff iPod that I had downloaded my music into, and that was it. And you might wonder, Angela, why did you not have a laptop? And the answer to that is a pretty freaking funny one. Right before coming in this trip, I watched this freaking movie that if you haven't watched it, please don't. And it's called I Am Number 4. And the heroine of this movie is the most perfect photographer in the world. And so, you know, she's just like around school with a camera, just taking photos of everyone, and then, you know, being so perfect. And I thought I was her, and I was like, you know what, I don't need a computer, mom, buy me a camera. So instead of, my mom was, no, I'm going to get you, you know, a laptop so you can study. I was like, no, you know what, I can do it the old-fashioned way, you know, pen and paper is going to be better for my studies. Please buy me a camera. And so I went to Europe with a camera, no laptop, to study. And so I used to spend my days looking through the window and just hoping for time to pass, because around the student rooms there was absolutely nothing to do, like nothing to do. So, and the days were so long because in September, you know, the sun still sets a little bit later, and I had never seen that. In Colombia, the sun sets around like 5:30 every day for life, but here it was summertime, and so I believe the sun set at like 8 p.m. and I was like, why is this day eternal? And I spent a couple of days like that, and obviously I just pretty quickly began to regret my life choices. And then first day of school comes around, and you know, I just get ready and I'm so excited, and I go to class, and it was fun, but the campus was definitely not what I expected for like a French university. It was not modern, to say the least. Even the most beautiful buildings were not what I was expecting, you know, in my vision that I had of like, you know, beautiful big universities. Yeah, that is not at all. So, but anyways, it was fun. I met a few people. It was mostly obviously international students. We were all very shy, and courses were not that long. It was like either 4 hours in the morning and maybe 2 hours in the afternoon, and then that was it, or 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, that was it. It was like very short because they wanted to leave you the time so that you could go out and explore the city. But I was not able to do that because I live in campus. So, you know, most of us would just go back home and just do nothing. But then came this beautiful day where I found out that we had a library with computers and internet access, and I was like, yes! And so I would just spend the rest of the days just in the library, just on YouTube, listening to music and talking to my friends on Facebook, and, you know, being like, oh my god, this is great, I am so happy, this is so amazing. But then, you know, as soon as the library closed at 6, I was back to being miserable, and it was not great. So I think I cried myself to sleep for a couple of weeks. I had a goal, and my goal was to find a job, but I was not able to find a job for a year. And that is the main reason why when you guys ask me if, you know, you should come to Paris or go to another city, I always say come to Paris, because you can find yourself in a situation like this where you go to a smaller city, but then yeah, maybe it's less expensive, but there are no jobs. I was absolutely traumatized that I didn't find a job because I obviously was counting on the job to help me made up for the money that I had paid on the deposit. And I obviously did not tell my mom because I knew that she had paid a lot of money to put me there, so I didn't want to be like, by the way, they forgot to tell us about this deposit, so you know, send me more money. I was just suffering alone, like being like, oh my god, what am I gonna do, what am I gonna do, what am I gonna do? And these are the things that you guys have to think about, because no one is going to be able to predict everything that is going to happen. When you guys ask me questions, this is so annoying. These are the things that you guys have to think about, because I know that some of you that have sent me messages sometimes say that you don't have a great relationship with your parents, or you know, maybe you want to do this on your own. I was not on my own. I had my mother's support, but because I was, I don't know, too proud or too embarrassed or whatever the case, I just decided to, you know, just be alone in this whole thing. And you have, no one is going to tell you this, but you're going to have to think about things that you never had to worry before. And I know that obviously you're going to be like, yeah, I know I'm going to have to eat and I'm going to have to provide for myself, but you can find yourself in, you know, very difficult situations. And that's why I say you have to have a plan. And I actually did that. When I was studying French, I forgot to mention, I studied, you know, beauty. I studied in the French Academy nonetheless, to cut hair and to do like, you know, blowouts and stuff. But I was not able to find a job doing that because the city was so small. So try to really study your possibilities, have a plan, because I had a plan, but I only had a plan A. I did not have a plan B, and I was not able to find a job for a really long time, so it was definitely difficult. And I didn't make any friends because, I don't know, people were just, you know, in their own thing, and it was a lot of international students, so it was a lot of different cultures, and you know, the Chinese students were mostly just between them, and then there were like two girls that came from like another country, so they were together, and you know, the Spanish people were just them, and I was there like, oh, I have no friends. And you know, with time I did make this one friend that was Lucien, that she helped me so much, and I literally do not know what would have become of me would it not have been for her, because I literally lived in her house. But you know, the raging parties and the sororities and the beautiful you know, university and all of that did only exist in my mind, and that was the reality to the fantasy that I had created. And yeah, it was harsh. I was just really struggling for that whole year. And I remember that I got this one job for a week for Christmas, which I was so excited about because, you know, it was Christmas, so I was going to have money, and it was at this little restaurant cafe thing, you know, working just as a waitress. And I thought they were going to keep me, but they didn't. They kind of like fired me friendly on New Year's Eve. So that was brutal. I was alone. You know, Lucien had gone to Brazil with her family, and I was just all alone in the apartment in New Year's Eve, just with nothing. It was pretty depressing. It was pretty depressing. So I also found a job. I left my curriculum at this restaurant, and you know, they called me and they were like, oh, we have a job for you, and I was like, oh my god, yes. And then they called me back, and they were like, but you're a student? And I was like, yes. And they're like, oh no, I'm sorry, we cannot work with students because, you know, your visa and stuff and whatever. Which I honestly don't know what was wrong with that, because students can work, like I tell you guys in the other video about how to, you know, work as a student. You can work as a student half-time, or you can work full-time if you only work half of the year. So I don't remember exactly what the deal was, but in any case, you know, they pulled the offer, and so I was just completely devastated. And I remember that I threw my phone to the floor, and I was just like, what? Like, why can nothing just go my way? You know, a lot of things happened for me to be like, I'm not gonna just give up. Like, I came here for something. And I finished my French classes, and I had a very hard time getting my French certification because I missed a lot of classes because I was looking for jobs. But without that certification, I was not able to sign up for the DELF exam that I needed to go to university. So the only thing that saved me is that Lucien, my friend, she was friends with the director of the school, and he kind of like let it pass and they gave me my certification, but that was a close call. But anyways, I was like, F this, I am not going to lose. I didn't come this far to just, you know, lose everything. You know, I came here for a reason, I'm going to get it. And so I signed up for university, and a curriculum that I had left several months before at Pizza Hut made the cut, and I got a job at Pizza Hut, which was 5 minutes right next to the school. And from that point on, things started to go a lot better because with the job, everything was better. I had money. I didn't have to worry, you know, about that anymore. And, you know, I was able to pay my rent, and I was able to feed myself, and I didn't have to ask my mom for help because I know that it was very expensive for her because euros are 3 times Colombian currency. So I was just so grateful that I got that job, and I kept that job for the whole time that I was in Perpignan because it was just perfect. That's where I met my boyfriend. He was also a student. He was just getting, you know, out of university. He was leaving because he had found a job in another region, like in the north, like in literally the opposite side of France, but he came back for me. From that point on, things started to go my way, but it was definitely not in the fantasy that I had, because the fantasy that I had was just that. It was definitely not what I expected it to be. So after that, I just knew that I had to get out of there, and not to be, you know, mean about Perpignan or anything, but it was just not what I was looking for. So I knew that I had to come to Paris, and I've told this many times before in like TikToks and stuff, but everyone advised me against it. But I just, like, I did not went through everything that I just went through. Like we say in Spanish, you did not kill the tiger to run from the fur, like literally. No. So I was like, fuck everyone, fuck what you say, I'm just going to go to Paris. And I did. And Paris just changed everything for me. I love this city so much because my life here has changed, and now I can finally say that I am living my fantasy that I used to dream about, but not anymore, you know, like the student version of it, but just, you know, just like the beautiful places and the beautiful life. And it's still obviously not perfect, but I guess you could say I found it, what I was looking for. Not to say that the same is going to happen to you, or it's not to say that, you know, poor me or whatever, because I loved my life in Perpignan. You know, not the first bit, but after it was nice. I had a nice life. I was happy, you know, it was just whatever. I was getting my economics degree, and it was not like I had a lot of time to think about anything because I was so bad at math. So I had to study so much, because here in France you only get 1 exam for each subject, no second chances. So I really had to study a lot. So those 3 years, just I literally envisioned myself as a little turtle, and I just put my little head inside, and I was like, the only way to get through it is to get through it, and I just got through it. And yeah, in Paris I found, you know, my job at the nightclub, so that was cool. I mean, it was cool because it paid well and I made a lot of tips, but I literally had to bite my tongue to not fall asleep, because I had been studying from 6 in the morning and it would be 6 in the morning of the next day, and I was just going home to sleep and like start, you know, another class in like 2 hours. So it was definitely tiring, but I was able to save money and I was able to, you know, go back to Colombia. I was able to pay for my mom to come and visit, and I did my master's degree. Then I found my dream job and I met some amazing people that are still my friends to this day, and I saved my money. I did not do any spending, and that's what allowed me to launch my business, which I am so excited about and that I work in every day, and I'm having a lot of fun. So everything turned out for the better. But anyways, if I can tell you anything, if I can give you some advice for you guys that are hoping to do the same, is be very specific about what you want and how you are going to proceed. And then know that no matter how much preparation and how much time you spend researching and asking questions and all of that, I'm not saying not to do it, do it. You're not going to get all the answers. You're just going to have to do it. And I'm not saying that everyone's experience is going to be like mine. There are lots of people that have such beautiful experience from the beginning, and I'm sure that's going to be your case. But the thing that I see a lot is that a lot of you guys are, you know, in analysis paralysis, and you're just like, I really want to go, but what if? And I really want to go, but what if? And I don't know. And you just ask so many questions that it's like, you're not gonna know the answers. You know, you're just gonna have to do it. You know, you're just gonna have to take a leap of faith and then deal with whatever thing comes up, because that's life. And maybe you get exactly what you were looking for, and maybe you get exactly what you were not looking for, or exactly what you didn't want. You just have to, you know, roll the dice, because that's just life. If you take the chance, you might win. But if you don't take the chance, you're for sure going to lose, because you're going to regret not trying every single day of your life. So go out there and get working and start working towards your dreams. Anything is possible. Anything that you can imagine is possible, but you have to be willing to put in the work, because it's not going to happen just because you want it. You're going to have to put in the work, and you're going to have to be very motivated. Even though you're sad and depressed and whatever, you're just going to have to do it. And I'm sorry if it sounds harsh, and that's just life. So yay, come to France. But anyways, that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. And if you have any questions, definitely send me a DM. Do not hesitate to send me a DM. I always answer. Like I say, I see myself in you guys. If you have any ideas for future videos that I should do, please leave them in the comments down below. If you think that this video could maybe help someone that you know, please share it in your social media. If you liked it, if it brought you some value, please give it a like and subscribe so I know. And that's it. I will see you in the next one. Bye!